Hi guys, welcome to my November book review here on my YouTube channel. As always, if you've read the same books as me, let me know what you thought. And if you have any book recommendations, don't forget to share them in the comments. Enjoy! This month I have continued rereading my Discworld novels, and I read Men at Arms and Soul Music, both of which I give 5 stars to, both of which I enjoy reading immensely. And if you haven't read any Terry Pratchett before, I urge you to go and check out his Discworld series. Tonday, The Life and Times of a Yoruba Girl in London by Segiola Salami. Recap. Yetunde tells the reader about her day, from her point of view as a baby and interspersed with traditional African folk tales. Review. A rather odd little book. I enjoyed the folk tales more than the baby prose, which was a bit unexpected and at times felt ridiculous. I was also disappointed that the Yoruba dialogue wasn't translated. I don't mind having foreign language in a book I'm reading, but I do like to know what it's saying. I understand what the author was trying to do, mix traditional storytelling with modern life, but it didn't quite mesh for me. How to Become a Successful Recovering Alcoholic by J.P. Wilson. Recap. This is J.P. Wilson's second autobiographical book about his journey to recovery as an alcoholic. Review. I am probably not the best person to read this book. I don't often read self-help or non-fiction books, and I don't drink, so it's possibly a little harder for me to relate to the author's journey. I do want to say well done for not only facing his addiction, but also feeling motivated enough to write and share about it as well. I felt that we didn't hit the advice stage until about chapter 6. The first 5 chapters were rather repetitive. I also think a preface, introduction, acknowledgement and prologue are unnecessary. They could have all been rolled into one, as they seem to repeat themselves. I would have preferred a more chronological approach to Wilson's journey, so his childhood cropping up in chapter 11 felt a bit out of place. However, perhaps this format was used in the first book and it was merely a carry-on. I will say the author has a strong voice and writes non-fiction well. The book is also unashamed as to its style and approach. For example, Wilson explains his epilogue by saying, "I'm a writer and you're not, so I can do what I want." And you kind of have to say, fair play. Walking Through Quicksand by J. L. Hoyt. Recap. We follow the downward spiral of an addict who has lost everything. Review. I started reading this book with absolutely no idea as to what the story actually was, which made it very intriguing. The author used every descriptive word possible, creating a very poetic prose, but interestingly enough, without bucket loads of cliches and repetitive phrases. We do experience a very real sense of despair, the slippery slope that the main character fell down and did not want to climb back up from. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but the reason why the main character's life fell apart, what he went through, and the ending are all very powerful. Dying to be Roman by E. M. Swifthook and Jane Jargo. Recap. Di and Julia must work together to solve a series of murders. The twist, the book is set in modern-day Roman times. Julia is a citizen, Di is not. Review. This is a co-authored book, and I was curious to see whether I could tell who wrote what bit. I can't. It's a fantastic blend of 2 very talented ladies who have written an excellent alternative history detective novella. And is so very readable, always a sign of good writing when you never stumble over phrasing or get jerked out of the narrative due to confusing plot points. I really enjoyed this introduction into a whole new world, and I'm excited that there are further instalments in the Di and Julia series to read. You don't have to be an expert on Roman history to enjoy the setting. You are comfortably shoehorned in and given enough to get on with. Whilst not really a classic whodunit, there's enough intrigue to keep you turning the pages, a love story to satisfy the emotional aspect, plus an enjoyable bit of gore at the end. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Recap. Bounty hunter Rick Deckard has to retire 6 androids trying to pass as humans while questioning his own empathetic feelings and balancing his reverent desire to own a real animal. Review. I have never watched Blade Runner. Now I get to say I have not seen the new one either, but at least I finally got round to reading the book. I enjoyed the world building, the oddities mankind had surrounded themselves with in order to try and continue to exist happily. I love the idea of people having real and electronic animals on the roofs of their building. So very random. The Art of Worship by Kilby Blades. Recap. Reed Whitney is turning 18. Time for his father to pass on the family wisdom about sex and how to please his partner. Review. At first I felt slightly uncomfortable, like I was a fly on the wall during a highly intimate conversation between father and son, but then I realised there were several important messages in this little book. It's important to be able to talk frankly with your parents about your sex life, that it's a safe space, much better than getting into trouble with unwanted pregnancy, STDs and even worse, non-consensual sex. It's also a good idea to have an inkling about what you're getting into, so to speak, the courage to talk with your partner about their likes and dislikes, rather than treating the whole event as a 30-second porno. The writing style is confident. The sex scenes are graphic, but not needlessly so. The family relationships are actually kind of sweet, and I'll admit I preferred reading the story rather than the action. As a guidebook for young adults dipping their toe into sexual relations, I can see this book being more helpful than not. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again in December. Happy reading!